Alrighty, recording. So hi you guys and welcome to my channel. I'm back with a new reaction video and we're gonna check out the carrier who carries the big man Jokic. This video is called "There Will Never Be Anyone Like Nikola Jokic Again." And why is it so tangled? Shish. So I'm not gonna ramble. Let's get straight into this video.
I'm telling you, that guy's he's just a different beast, man.
It's always a wow moment, and the stuff he does, like, it's so easy. Like, he makes the right play every single time.
That's when you know it is good, because it's not easy, but when you make it look good, you're good. That was very analytically
absolutely mind-blowing hand-eye coordination. He's looking before the pass.
He one step ahead. One step ahead.
Jokic.
Passes the IQ.
Jokic. He's too damn good. It's not fair, all the things he can do.
And he just looks so cool, calm while doing it. No expression, just calma. I got goosebumps already in my
The
legs.
2022 NBA season will go down in history for a number of reasons, but none bigger than it being the season in which Nikola Jokic cemented himself as one of the greatest players in NBA history, becoming just the 13th player ever to win back-to-back MVPs. However, Nikola Jokic's second MVP might be the most unique of any. And I'm not talking about the fact he was drafted 41st overall during a Taco Bell commercial in comparison to an average draft position of 7 amongst the other 12 winners, including some of the most hyped prospects and players the game has ever seen. This second MVP season is so special because not only did Nikola Jokic make history for a number of different reasons, he became the first player ever to record 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists in a season. He led the league in triple-doubles, double-doubles, and broke both the all-time PER record and box plus-minus record, casually beating out LeBron James and Michael Jordan. But the craziest part about all of this, he did this without his two best teammates.
Single-handedly, I got goosebumps, you guys. And it's hot in here. Get at
The way this got done, I ain't been a big man down.
Cross court, Gordon for the lead.
vision crazy. You don't even need to look. You don't need no vision. And it's excellent.
April 12th, 2021, entering the game with the 6th best record in the NBA, and Nikola Jokic well on his way to winning his first MVP on the back of a breakout regular season, this happened.
What happened?
Murray got hit, and this is going to be Golden State ball. And Murray's down and hurt. Oh my goodness. Important part of the Denver Nuggets, and he's just gotten better and better, Richard.
Now, this injury didn't affect the Nuggets down the stretch as much as people expected, with Denver winning 13 of their last 18 games, actually solidifying Jokic's MVP case, with it clear just how great he was. This was then further proven with him averaging 33 and 10 in a first-round win against the Blazers, led by a backcourt of Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers. But it was the following season that most people expected the impact to be felt. Luckily for the Nuggets, however, not only did they still have Jokic, Michael Porter Jr. was coming off a hugely improved season, and with added responsibility, a lot of people were anticipating him turning into a bona fide star and a legitimate second option to help power the Nuggets to a good record alongside the brilliance of Jokic. But even with the expected improvement from Michael Porter Jr., Jokic was not going back-to-back. I mean, back-to-back MVPs, that's only truly reserved for the best of the best, the true NBA legends. And with all the top-end talent in the NBA heading into the 2022 season, Jokic had no chance. And if you think I'm exaggerating, Jokic received 0 votes from any Bleacher Report or ESPN staff writer, so much for that media bias that everyone claims he has. He was plus 1,600 from betting companies behind Anthony Davis and, Kawhi Leonard. Wait, Kawhi Leonard? Yeah, Jokic was considered less of a favorite by the bookies to win his second MVP than Kawhi Leonard, who, if you don't remember, was coming off an ACL injury just a few months before. And on top of all of this, no NBA general managers had voted for him to repeat either in their yearly straw poll. So it's safe to say the odds were stacked against him and the Nuggets. And things started okay for the Nuggets. They went on to get a little slice of revenge against the Phoenix Suns in the first game of the season, with Jokic as dominant as ever, posting 27 and 13 with a plus-minus of 28, and alongside that dominance, Michael Porter Jr. and Will Barton looked efficient and ready to help. Just a quick spoiler alert, these are the only times I will be using the words efficient, helpful, and Will Barton in the same sentence. Thanks for your understanding. But they followed their first win up with a win against San Antonio, and you guessed it, yet another dominant Jokic performance. But after a pretty good first game, things went downhill for Michael Porter Jr. Through the first 8 games of the season, MPJ was averaging 11 points on 36% from the field and just over 20% from 3. For a player that had just received a max contract and was expected to be averaging twice as many points per game, it was a flat-out disaster to say the least. And there was a need for him to turn things around, otherwise it looked like the Nuggets could be heading for a spot in the play-in. And that's when this happened.
What happened? He's injured.
And now
That's
things were incredibly difficult. No Michael Porter Jr., no Jamal Murray, and over 70 games left in a season that was full of star-studded teams. The likelihood of the Nuggets making it further than the play-in looked pretty slim. And the likelihood of Nikola Jokic winning another MVP, with his second best player being Aaron Gordon, looked even slimmer. And Jokic's chances didn't exactly get better the next game, because following the MPJ injury was the infamous incident.
Oh my, Jokic just clobbered Markieff Morris from behind.
Now, everyone had an opinion on the Jokic and Morris incident.
He responded.
And I know you guys
See,
might be...
he responded. Like, come on, if you triggered, get
thinking this is irrelevant in the grand scheme of an historic
You gotta keep your cool,
MVP
I know, but I'm just
season,
saying, he responded.
but there is some relevance to it, because people brought into question Jokic's character, citing the swipe-on campaign in the second round of the playoffs the year prior as another example. And these character questions that people raised were said by some to be a potential stain on another MVP case. But more importantly for the Nuggets, Jokic was facing a 1-game suspension, and as a result, we got to see the most miraculous win of the NBA season. Everyone clap it up. No, I'm being dead serious, clap it up, because the juggernaut that is Will Barton and Aaron Gordon managed to win against the Indiana Pacers, which would be the first of 2 wins without Nikola Jokic during the season, in which he missed 8 games. Those 2 wins, you might ask, coming against the Houston Rockets and the Indiana Pacers, 2 of the bottom 5 teams. Just for reference, the Philadelphia 76ers managed 6 wins in 14 without Embiid, with 3 of those wins coming against the Grizzlies, Heat, and Nuggets, all top teams. Or the Bucks managed 6 in 15 and wins against Miami and Dallas. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Before we talk about that, business briefly resumed for Jokic and the Nuggets, as they went 2-2 over the next 4 games. But it was the next stretch of games that might be the most valuable piece of context in Jokic's MVP season. Yes, I really mean it. Because after sustaining a wrist injury, Jokic was sidelined for 4 games. And through the first 15 games of the season, they were 8-6 with Jokic, and scraped a win against a dreadful Pacers team in the other game. But the 4 games in a row that Jokic missed with a wrist injury resulted in 4 straight losses, with only one of those losses being within single digits. And this right here is why I get frustrated when people act like we don't have any reason to believe the Nuggets would have been a bottom 5 team without Jokic. The reasoning is right here. In a 4-game stretch without him, they could only get within 10 points once. They went 2-6 without him on the season. Without Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets are the Houston Rockets, the Detroit Pistons, the OKC Thunder. They're in the odds for Paolo Banchero and Chet Holmgren. But instead, well, we'll get to that a little bit later. And this is probably a good time in the video to mention just how truly impactful Jokic had been early in the season. You see the 4 losses without him, But just through his first 14
setting
games,
them up.
only 3 players had a higher plus minus. Steph Curry, who was on a 13-2 team, Jeff Green, and Aaron Gordon, who happened to be playing with Jokic. So I guess maybe he did have help after all. Well, not exactly, because you know those 4 games that I just mentioned? Both Monte Morris and Aaron Gordon played in those games and had plus minuses of -12 and -12.3 respectively, which were both bottom 10 amongst over 150 starters in that period of time. A 20-point swing led by 1 player. But before we talk more about the lack of help, Jokic returned from a wrist injury in a game against Miami, and this was probably one of the more enjoyable games of the season. Jokic came into the game against Miami fresh off a wrist injury,
Look at the
facing
movement.
Bulls and one of the best teams and defenses in the NBA, with his team having lost 4 games in a row without him.
Shoes okay?
He proceeded to drop 24, 15, and 7 with a plus minus of 17, absolutely dismantling the Heat with an exhibition of finishes around the rim
making the
and
teammates
dimes
better.
to outside shooters, single-handedly
no-look pass, they
dismantling one
moving.
of the best teams and defenses in the league. Something someone else I know couldn't do. Just kidding, maybe, kinda. But anyways, in the 9 games following his injury, Jokic continued to dominate like nothing ever happened, posting a triple-double in 4 of those 9 games and leading the Nuggets to a record of 5-4, despite the Nuggets outplaying their opponents in 7 of those 9 games when he was on the floor.
Oh my
But
God.
despite posting these extraordinary numbers through 28 games, despite having an extraordinary impact on the team, people still didn't believe he belonged at the top of the MVP conversation.
It's beyond stupid that we frame this as a 2-man race. Like, Nikola Jokic is averaging 26.5 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 58% shooting, 66% on twos.
And for some players, they would take this level of disrespect personally, because it was clear disrespect from a lot of people. But Jokic, nah, he didn't take any of the disrespect personally. But what he did do was win 19 of the next 29 games prior to the All-Star break, posting numbers of 26, 14, and 8 on typically great efficiency. But it wasn't the consistent greatness over this stretch that really solidified his case in the MVP conversation. It was one performance in particular that put him at the forefront of MVP conversations. January 19th, 2022. A seemingly regular game against the LA Clippers was anything but. After finishing the first half with a modest stat line of 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists, the Nuggets expectantly trailed, but what unfolded in the second half would need to be seen to be believed.
Oh, wow. 4-3?
Jokic on the go, got it for Nuggets.
He was
Jokic
hungry.
goes quick again.
He was eating.
Nice little deceleration for the layup. Jokic out top. Crosses, big body binge move. Jokic inside. Barton goes back door. Got it off glass. Just dominating inside, owning the pace and everything. Let's call it a pass to the MVP.
Combat
Jokic,
squad.
and the pocket pass picked off. Jokic with the pinch. Morris missed it. Jokic with the tip. I got your back. And Zubac looked like he was trying to do something out there. Jokic.
American
For the shot
football.
clock, they double team him late. Cross court.
Still can
Gordon
guard.
for the lead.
2 men, no problem.
And it was the combination of a performance like this and the one against the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo where he shredded their zone defense en route to a blowout win, dishing some of the most impressive dimes you will see in a game that had catapulted Jokic to number 1 on the NBA's MVP ladder. But even still, some weren't fully convinced.
Who's 1, 2, 3 in your book, Kenny?
Joel Embiid is 1.
Thank you.
Giannis is 2.
Okay.
And I would say 3 is up for grabs between,
Please.
DeMar DeRozan is at 3.
Embiid's been the best player in the NBA this season.
DeMar DeRozan has been the second best, and Giannis has been right there.
So once again, to a lot of people, Jokic was left to prove himself and prove why he was more of a valuable player to his team than a guy like DeMar DeRozan. Yes, the year's 2022, and I am saying that. March 6th, 2022. If you thought the game against the Clippers was his best fourth quarter and overtime performance, the clutch god himself had one better. Entering the fourth quarter against the Pelicans, Jokic had a respectable stat line of 16, 8 and 8, with a positive 5 plus minus. But like usual, that wasn't enough, because the Nuggets bench had been outscored by 15 points in the minutes he was off the floor. And that's when Jokic does what Jokic does.
Inside to Jokic. And this is where I think the Nuggets can catch up. Jokic has to go to work. More cowbell from the Joker. Jokic has it. Got the 15-footer. That's good. Now Jokic. He's in go-to-work mode, as you suggested, Katie.
Like they're not there. He said, excuse you. Let me go. Excuse you.
Jokic in the lane, they count the basket.
Can't guard.
Jokic tips it away. Jokic on the move. And he puts it up and in. Take over more.
The guy was trying to get a foul.
Just need a 3 to tie, or they can go for a quick 2. There they go. Jokic inside and another dunk. Jokic, 39, 11, and 10. Here he goes again. Nearly traveled, 4 to shoot. Jokic puts up a prayer. And it's answered. Oh, Nikola Jokic. From distance. Monte Morris. Jokic, 16-footer. That's good.
You can't stop it.
46 for Nikola Jokic. The reigning MVP does it again.
30 points on 10 of 11 shooting in the fourth quarter and overtime. No, I did not make up those stats. The only other player in the last 25 years to come close to those numbers
Wait, he did that in 15 minutes?
Was the great Kobe Bryant
R.I.P.
15
Kobe.
years ago. And even still, his performance wasn't as efficient or as impressive. But with all of this being said, this was still just an entree to the main course.
Stephen A, we'll start with you though. Who's the more talented big man, Embiid or the Joker?
I'm going to go with Embiid. Got Joel Embiid. I feel like he took control of it from a stretch from the third week of December.
Embiid's been the best player in the NBA this season.
Is James right? The MVP is Joel's to lose at this point.
Is Embiid older than Jokic?
Absolutely.
He is, right?
And I know we've been having discussions and the internet is going crazy about Devin Booker, and rightfully so. To all the people out there, he's in the conversation. But Embiid should be the front runner.
No way. Even me as a noob. If you just look at the situation, forget the past age or anything, because I don't know their ages, honestly, but
Jokic flips it up and in his second field goal.
Look what he's doing to Embiid!
Right on cue, knocks it down.
Embiid not doing that to him. He don't.
And there's the unbelievable passing ability of Nikola Jokic. Jokic leading the break.
Look at this guy.
Oh, what a pass! And Green throws it down. Nikola Jokic with a spectacular assist.
That's Kevin. That's not me. It's Kevin. Sweetie.
Oh, another pass to Green, and he finishes it off. Jokic another
talking
pass
like I know
into
it.
Morris.
Right.
Morris with another layup. Jokic leading the break. Oh, inside to Green, lays it up and in.
Mike, it's so beautiful to be sitting here at courtside to see this guy.
And throws it down. Jokic drives, trying to...
And just like that, without it being close to Jokic's best game of the season, this was a huge game in the context of the MVP, with Jokic displaying how he can control a game without having to score 40 points. But once again, this left people questioning whether he could score at the level of Giannis or Embiid or these other guys, and if you had those question marks, the last 7 games of the season would have answered them, because 35 points, 26 points, 37, 38, 38, 41, 35. And that was just the scoring. In total, Jokic averaged 36, 16-7 on 65% shooting from the field, whilst being a plus 87 in those remaining 7 games. But even with a finish like this, there were still people debating the legitimacy of his MVP case, because he was a 6th seed despite being only a couple of wins below Giannis and Embiid, which in fact weren't even a couple of wins because Jokic won more games on the season than both of those guys. People still questioned whether he had won enough to win another MVP. Now, despite the noise, votes had been compiled early through various media platforms, and it was clear that Jokic was about to be a very deserving back-to-back MVP, but more work was to be done. A matchup against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors awaited the Denver Nuggets, and at the time a lot of people didn't realize just how difficult a matchup this would be for Denver, because the Warriors had just finished the season with a few injuries and struggling for form. But we found out very quickly that wouldn't be an issue in the playoffs. But to say things started poorly for the Nuggets would be an understatement, because back-to-back blowout losses, back-to-back underwhelming performances from Jokic, and on the other side of things, Joel Embiid was winning, and here came all the people saying that Jokic was nothing more than a stat sheet stuffer. And you know, maybe they were right about his stat sheet stuffing ability, because in Game 3,
Man down! Man down!
He's got Jokic, who will curl around and get the 2. Green defending Jokic. Jokic with 24 for Golden State. Past the nail and down.
Like splitting water. Are we creating the space? Beautiful.
Jokic counters in a 1-point game.
and the Nuggets had every chance of winning this game up until 2 in particular crucial errors. And you know those 2 guys in Washington? Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons they're in Washington, because their inability to grab a rebound led to a pull layup, and then a couple of minutes later, Will Barton went one better. 1 minute left in the game, there's a 3-point difference. Jokic has 37 points and Klay Thompson switched onto him. Before Jokic could get into position to repost,
shot clock at 10, here's a 3 for the tie!
And at this point, the series was over. 3-0 down against the Warriors was insurmountable, and the criticism that Jokic was receiving for being on the verge of back-to-back sweeps, despite a huge Game 3, was expected, but ridiculous nonetheless. However, Jokic wasn't about to go out like that.
Joker barreling inside for the bucket. Joker walks into the 3, knocks it home.
For
Joker
3?
From downtown, got it.
But Jokic is just that good offensively.
Joker, light work.
He's a light work.
Jokic with the long 2, got it. Joker on the block against Green. Great pivot move. Morris inside to Jokic.
They're winning this
Jokic
one.
on the roll, kicks it out.
Ooh, it's a close one. It's a
the
close
dagger.
one.
So despite an
And they
underwhelming
beat him
first
at
2
home.
games, over the last 3 games of the series against the best team in the league, Jokic averaged 35, 15 and 6 on 65, 50, 83 splits. Nikola Jokic was only a couple of bad Will Barton plays away from taking this Warriors team to 6 or maybe even 7 games, something that no other team in the playoffs could manage to do. But nonetheless, I think he proved exactly what he can do, and heading into next season with a healthy team, I can only imagine how good he is going to be and how good the Nuggets are going to be. With that being said, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video if you did. Much appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you are new.
Yeah, shout out to this guy for making this video. It was a good one. I enjoyed watching it.
Drop a like. Have a great...
Link in the description to this original one. And yeah, appreciate you guys watching too if you made it to the end of this one. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And hopefully I'll see you in another one. Bye.